Welcome to There Will Be Expletives. I am Ron.
And I'm Jeff.
And Jeff is coming to us live on location. Where are you at, Jeff?
It's this little place called, like, From the Grave.
Is that like a new club in town?
I wish. No. I sound even worse than I normally do because I've been sick, awfully sick this whole week. But we are committed to our mediocre hobby, so here we are, still recording.
Those 3 fans out there are really counting on us this week.
Yeah, those 3 fans to download and not listen.
You were kind of obligated to, though, because I kind of, over the weekend, tweeted out that we were going to review Antman this week, so you kind of had to come in.
Yeah, thanks for that, prick. It's appreciated.
I just said we were going to do something without even consulting the other half of the podcast, so it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, the better half.
Not even going to argue that point, actually. We got virtually no news, but we got some stuff to go through, and then we're going to do our Ant-Man review last, like we normally do with reviews lately. Then we're going to start spoiler-free, and then move into our spoiler stuff, and of course we'll give you a warning before we get there. What little news, though, we do have, Jeff, though, I feel is pretty interesting, actually, for what it is. First one is definitely interesting, in my opinion.
For us, at least.
Yeah. Sword in the Stone, the 1963 animated film from Disney, is getting a live-action remake. Shocker there, I know. But what's really interesting is who they're getting for the writer. And what was his name? You said it a couple times earlier.
I believe it was BRYAN COGMAN.
Yes, I believe that's right. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, BRYAN COGMAN. BRYAN with a Y, COGMAN. Game of Thrones writer. Thoughts on that? Because I find that pretty interesting. Because that first movie, the animated film, I guess it's not really necessarily light-hearted, but it's a typical Disney film in the tone.
Yeah.
Game of Thrones does not scream Disney.
Dude, I would totally watch a Disney Game of Thrones movie. No, what it makes me think they're doing is, I haven't read it, this is just from what I've heard, but people say that the original story Sword in the Stone was based on was incredibly dark. And obviously it's not going to be like Game of Thrones level dark in this movie because it's still going to have Disney logo attached to it, but definitely much darker than the cartoon. And if you get anyone from Game of Thrones attached to anything, I'm usually down to watch it, so... how big of a fan of the cartoon are you? It was actually one of my favorites as a kid.
Yeah, it was definitely one of my favorites, actually. I need to find it. I haven't seen it since I was a child, probably.
It's one of those, I bet that would hold up pretty well, though. I haven't watched it recently.
I really miss that animation style, actually.
Yeah, the old school actual drawn animation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But... Yeah, no, I'm kind of looking forward to that. Live action is going to be pretty interesting, I think. And it's not really, I guess I just, for the type of movie that it is, I guess I find it surprising they haven't done one sooner. Really?
Well, yeah, it's so this is part of like their whole rampage of everything we ever did that was successful animated is going to be live action now. Because like, Jesus,
even Disney's out of ideas. They're just
what do
doing
they have,
the same
like
old shit
10,
again.
What do they have, like 10 movies in development of live action adaptations?
They're adding more all the time, too.
It's like Sword in the Stone. They're doing Beauty and the Beast, you know of, because that's filming now, I think.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of excited for that one, though, to be honest. Of their like Disney princess movies, like Beauty and the Beast, Cinderella, all that crap, Beauty and the Beast I actually really enjoyed. And with the cast that they have an insane cast, dude.
Which would be cool for the Sword in the Stone one is if they got a bunch of Game of Thrones alums to be characters in it. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, it would.
I think this is the first thing that was it BRYAN COGMAN was the writer?
Yes.
I think this is the first thing he's done since kind of hitting big with Game of Thrones, so it's curious to see, because we did see, I don't know if you're familiar with him, but Alan Taylor was from Game of Thrones, and he ended up directing Thor 2 and Terminator Genesis.
Oh, really?
So it's kind of cool to see them.
I didn't know he was Game of Thrones.
Yeah, he was one of their...
Well, shit, if you had told me that, I probably wouldn't have shit on Terminator as bad. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, he was the director, I think, from the first couple of seasons, so it's cool to not only see the actors of Game of Thrones getting attention outside of the show, but also, like, you know, the writers and directors are starting to branch out, because goddamn, what a great show that is.
Yeah, it is.
They all deserve whatever job they get.
Yeah, no, that's definitely for sure. There was something interesting at the bottom of this article, and I'm going to rearrange our notes because I forgot to move this up. I put it in a weird place on our notes. But speaking of Aladdin remakes and them being out of ideas, they've also got some fresh, terrible ideas. Jesus, I don't even know where to begin with this article, Jeff. The headline on Rolling Stone is Disney plans live-action Aladdin prequel called Genies. And it's already kind of a moment. But then the subtitle, new film about magical lamp dwellers to be written by Freddy vs. Jason team. What the actual fuck?
Because nothing screams, you know, wholesome fun for the whole family like Freddy versus Jason.
Right? I mean, it's just so left field. And see, we were going through this earlier. Who else did they have in it? Like, it just sounds like a clusterfuck already.
Well, you know who they don't have in it, and that's Robin Williams. So why the fuck are you doing the genie from Aladdin?
I know.
And it's like, it's not even like 10 years after he died where you could kind of get away with it, you know, kind of homaging him.
Yeah,
but
it was
like,
just last year.
He just died last year, so it's really fresh in everyone's minds. So,
yeah.
like, they're going to be even more sensitive about them dicking with that character.
The article does say that while no one has been announced to play Genie in Genies, it looks like what everyone is thinking they'll do, I don't even know how to say this name, James Iglehart, Iglehart, he won a Tony for playing the genie on Broadway.
I can see that if they were able to, because if he won a Tony, it's at least, you know, not shitting all over Robin Williams' performance. So
yeah, but I just apparently the idea of the movie, like I said in the subtitle, is the story of how Genie got in the lamp, and I guess we're going to see like the land of the genies, and I guess by the end of the movie he would be hidden in, what was the name of the cave, the giant like tiger's mouth thing?
No idea. It's been like 12
remember.
years since I've seen that movie.
I know, it's been longer than it should have, honestly. But I don't even remember what it's called, but I guess by the end of the movie he'll be in there, and then the sequel would be the Aladdin movie we all know and love, in live action. And the only reason I could think of to do it that way is basically to see if it's even a viable idea, if they could do it without Robin Williams, without fucking up Aladdin. Because if Genies sucks, everyone's just going to be like, oh, that movie sucked. If you just go straight into Aladdin, and you fuck up Aladdin, like, probably all your other live-action remakes are all going to be fucked up from then on, because everyone's going to be pissed.
Yeah,
you know?
Many people, that's their favorite out of all of those iconic Disney movies.
It's mine.
What they should do, though, is I want to see a Freddy versus Jason, the Genies versus Beast from Beauty and the Beast. That's what I want to see.
I just want to see at the end of the movie, like, Genie just beheads Jafar.
Dude, you do that, I'm there. Like, maybe they picked the right people.
And then at the end of the movie, like, Jafar picks up his own head and walks off screen. Like, yeah.
So much more interesting than what's actually going to happen.
I know, dude. That movie's I mean, Disney's on a roll, but as far as I can see, this movie's gonna fucking suck. I mean, I don't know. I just don't know. I don't. Who would you?
Although to be fair, are there any movies that come out that aren't MCU properties that Ron doesn't think is gonna suck? Because that's been like the going theme for the whole podcast.
I didn't think Mad Max was gonna suck. I was fucking on board with that.
So you got one movie. Everything else is going to suck.
There's been some MCU stuff, and I'm like, I don't know. And then we got into it, and I was like, oh yeah, fuck yeah, that was awesome. Then there's been the opposite with Age of Ultron. Oh, it's gonna be fucking amazing. Oh, I don't know. Yeah,
just decidedly mediocre, unfortunately.
But yeah, quick question for you though. While we're still talking about it, I think we're still talking about it. Who would you pick for Aladdin, and who would you pick for Jafar? I've already got kind of Jafar in my head. I don't know who I would pick for Aladdin.
Oh God, you're catching me with no ideas ahead of time. I didn't even think about it. Jafar, I'm gonna go Ben Kingsley.
That was mine.
That's just off the top of my head. And Aladdin. Who's your Aladdin? I have no idea.
I hadn't come up with one. I haven't been able to come up with one. I'm thinking nobody.
That'll work.
I'm thinking just go with either a nobody or someone who needs to catch a break. That needs to get their big break.
You know who it's going to be, though? It's going to be Zac Efron. That's what they're going to do.
Watch, it's PETA.
Channing Tatum is Aladdin.
And for some reason, he's wearing no pants.
Magic Mike is Aladdin.
From the director of Freddy vs. Jason and the producer of Magic Mike XXL.
Magic Mike rides the magic fucking carpet.
Oh, this is gonna be terrible. But, dude, I mean, they're already. We thought they were using Ben Kingsley in Jungle Book, right? I mean, he's already in. Why not just use him as Jafar too? Then, if you did a sequel, you can do fucking Return of Jafar, and he comes back. So, spoiler for Return of Jafar.
20-year-old cartoon.
It's all in the title. The spoiler is the title. So, okay, I think it's time we moved on from this. I just thought it was interesting to note because that's going to be awful, is from what I can hear so far. I don't know. I don't know which is worse though, Dumbo or Genies. I just don't see a way to do Dumbo.
I think Aladdin is really hard to adapt, but I don't even know why you'd even kind of try to adapt Dumbo.
Well, honestly, as far as adaptations go, I think Aladdin would lend itself really well. I mean, it's not a story. I mean, the overall story is kind of cliche itself. I mean,
but that's like all the Disney movies, basically.
Yeah. So, but I mean, I have no clue what you would do with a live action Dumbo. Is it even going to be live action? They're all going to be CGI, aren't they? It's just going to be a really good looking cartoon, isn't it?
Well, didn't you say Dumbo was like Tim Burton attached?
Yes.
To direct it?
I think they're looking at him. I just closed the article, because I had it at the end of the Aladdin article. He's either is going to be the director or they are in talks to have him as director.
Well, what would happen is
I think he
Johnny
is
Depp
director.
is the voice of everyone, and all the elephants look really fucking weird. That's
their trunks are those weird, like, curly things that are in the foreground of every Tim Burton movie. A little, like, curly flower, like Nightmare Before Christmas style.
Yeah.
That's what I want to fucking see. Give me Dumbo done in the same animation style as Nightmare Before Christmas.
You just gave me nightmares tonight just talking about that shit. This is fucking terrifying.
About this Jack Skellington Dumbo with rosy cheeks.
The images in my brain are so much worse than would probably actually look like.
Oh, this is fun. Okay. So, see, since I had skipped over that and I fucked up our order, I don't know what to do next.
Do it live.
Huh?
Do it live.
Okay. Let's just jump straight into it. We only have one video game story. Let's go ahead and jump into it and get back to movies, because I really like ending Marvel to Marvel, because we have a Marvel story before the Ant-Man review. Speaking of broken ideas, Batman the Arkham Knight for PC. Yeah. It's kind of funny because an article I read earlier, basically it's universally recognized that the worst PC port of all time is Batman Arkham Knight, but at the same time, PS4 sales have never been stronger because of Batman the Arkham Knight. So it's like both at the exact same time, the absolute best game and the absolute worst game.
You don't know what fucking happened, right?
What's that?
Fucking Sony, man. They hacked that shit. Rocksteady ships a totally ready-to-go product. Sony hacks that shit. Now you have to buy it on PS4 and Xbox One.
I think probably since no one could fucking play it on PC, they just went out and bought a PS4 and got Arkham Knight that way.
Shit, dude. They're not complaining.
Yeah. So, but no, Arkham Knight, sales have been suspended. They have recalled from retail stores. Most of the big name ones like Best Buy and all them are complying and shipping the retail copies back to the manufacturer for some reason. The article I was reading pointed out they're just probably going to update it with a patch anyway. There's really no need in wasting the money shipping everything back. But I guess they're trying to protect their brand most likely to... it's a broken game. They've already done some damage. You don't want it to sit on store shelves and people continue buying it and continue to realize it's broken. That's my guess.
I think they see the damage that the whole Unity debacle has done to Ubisoft in general. Like, a lot of people are still sour about Ubisoft because of all of the Unity bullshit.
I never even played that fucking game, and I'm sour about Ubisoft.
Nobody could.
Nobody could. They couldn't even play it on console. Like, that game was totally fucked. But, yeah, I guess it's really hitting home because it's not only Batman, but it's Rocksteady's final standalone Batman game. And I say it that way because we don't know what their next project is. I really feel like it's probably Justice League, so I don't want to say it's their final Batman game, but it's their final standalone Batman game, they've said. But yeah, the word is that it's going to be re-released sometime this fall. I think the window, like you said, off mic, is between September and November, which is kind of a wide range, I realize, but that's supposed to be the window. There was initially a slight internet panic because I think the original article, because it was actually, the time window actually came out of, I don't remember if it was, I don't think it was a hacked email. I think it was a released memo that was supposed to stay internal. And it said spring, but that memo was in Australia. So their spring is our fall. So people just saw the word spring and freaked the fuck out.
Which even fall is enough to make people freak the fuck out because that is, let's say it comes out
spring.
Let's say it comes out in October. When did it come out? Was it June, right? Or was it technically July? It was June, right? So that's 4 months. In like video game time, that's a long ass time.
Dude, they're releasing content for it for 6 months. So you're almost all of your content is released by the time it finally comes out for PC, I mean, sorry.
Yeah, all those 40-minute DLCs that everyone's loving so much.
Oh, dude, 20-minute. No, they're not even 40-minute.
I beat the Harley Quinn one in I think 20 minutes. It was like, why even bother programming it?
I think it was like 25 minutes for me because I fucked up during the Nightwing fight. Spoilers for Harley Quinn DLC. Because I didn't realize the cops were endless, and I'm like, I'm gonna get rid of these bastards before I try taking on Nightwing.
It's such horseshit.
I ended up taking too much damage.
Dick Grayson was Batman at one point, and he gets his ass handed to him by Harley Quinn. Like, come on.
I liked a lot of what they did with that, though.
Yeah, they
I liked her crazy
cool
vision and her psychosis, power up. That was all.
I liked how all of her kills were loud kills. It was like the opposite of Batman.
Yeah, the little music box things was badass, dude. I put those down all over the place.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It's just like, if you're going to take the time to program her specifically, I just thought it was odd that you wouldn't at least put like an hour or an hour and a half into it.
Yeah, you think if you went through the trouble, but I guess it's basically just a skin. I don't know.
Well, maybe they had to spend so much time developing like 4 or 5 different characters that they just didn't have the production time to then make them that much, material for each one.
I don't know. I haven't played Batgirl yet. Last I looked, it was still only available to the season pass holders. So I haven't been able to get my hands on it yet, but I heard it's also about like 20 minutes, which that disappointed me. I expected A Matter of Family is what it's called. I expected that to be at least 40 minutes to an hour. I could understand the Harley Quinn thing because the Harley Quinn thing, well, I didn't like that it was 20 minutes. It was also one of those things that like, hey, go pre-order here and get this for free. I didn't expect a whole lot out of it.
Thing. Yeah.
Yeah. But this is different. A Matter of Family is totally different. This is an add-on, more or less. And yeah, that disappoints me hearing that it's still about 20, 25 minutes.
Especially when they're pimping out their DLCs and charging you more, like the highest price season pass ever,
Yeah.
You would expect a little more bang for your buck, considering, like, let's say you get 5 or 6 30, 40-minute DLCs for that $40, and you're getting skins and maps and shit thrown in with it, but the game itself was like 25 to 30 hours long, and that was $60.
Yeah.
So you're comparing the $60 full game to $40 where you actually only got like 4 or 5 hours of content. That's pretty ridiculous.
It's probably going to end up, if they all stay 20 minutes, it's probably going to end up being like 2 to 2.5 hours of content.
Hopefully they have one that is at least like 2.5 hours long. Like
God,
hopefully they have something that makes it worth that $40.
And I really expected it to be A Matter of Family too, because of the concept that like the overall story is Batman can't intervene. They have Commissioner Gordon, and if Batman steps on the scene, they're gonna immediately fucking kill him. I think it's Joker, isn't it? Has him?
Yeah.
And Batman can't step foot on, or they're gonna straight up execute Commissioner Gordon. So it's Robin and Batgirl is the Matter of Family, and infiltrating and trying to rescue Commissioner Gordon. And that is a really cool concept. I expected more than 20 minutes on that. Especially if I'm assuming it's still Mark Hamill as Joker while they had him. So what's even the fucking point putting Joker in there?
Very odd what they've done with those DLCs. I didn't really get it, which was strange too, because how long was the Harley Quinn's Revenge? Wasn't it like 3-4 hours long, something like that?
I think 4 hours is probably pushing it. It was probably 2 to 3.
Yeah, it's like I don't get it.
But it was still pretty good. It was better than the Harley Quinn, the playable Harley Quinn one. And it had a fairly decent story too. It was kind of standalone. It's
like you were saying, I almost would have preferred, instead of having 4 or 5 different character DLCs, maybe like one 3 or 4 hour like good one, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like one where they could actually delve into a little bit, and like a perfect one would have been that Batgirl one, but it's just
especially
really
with her costume design, dude. Her costume design was pretty slick. Like that was pretty fucking terrifying for Batgirl.
Yeah, like I was actually curious about playing Batgirl, and I've always liked Oracle, but I've never given 2 shits about Batgirl really.
Yeah, so I wonder. This may be a spoiler for it. I don't know, because I haven't looked it up on YouTube. I haven't read anything about it because I wanted to play it. But I wonder if it has like a depressing ending. Like she's like, "Whoa, I'm going to go to the clock tower now," because if you played Arkham Knight, you saw the flashback of what happened in the clock tower. What turned her into Oracle rather than Batgirl. So I wonder if it has some kind of depressing ending. Like, yeah, I'll be at the clock tower, and then yeah, I don't know. Anyways,
well, probably. Yeah, I'm not buying the season pass now after what they've shown. So
yeah, probably not.
If I end up getting any of them, it's going to have to be maybe down the road they actually have one with some depth to it and like content length, because I'm not going to pay. What are they charging individually for those? Like $10?
I have no idea, because when I looked at it, there was nothing listed, and in game it said it was with the season pass holders.
If they're charging like individually for those, like $10 for 40 minutes of content, that's fucking mind blowing to me.
Yeah, I don't approve of that like at all. And the sad thing is, as much as I want to play them, I don't want to support that, so I'll probably just end up YouTubing it.
Right? Yeah, you can YouTube one of those and get 3/4 the experience because they're 20, 30-minute long DLCs.
Yeah. So, another thing that I did want to point out for the few listeners that we do have, or probably still have at this point, the Batman Arkham Knight PC version, if you are hanging in there and still trying to play it, because there are a few people that are just trying to power through it, even though it has all of its issues. There is going to be a patch released. They're expecting to release a patch sometime in August, and this patch is supposed to help with a lot of the crippling issues, but not all of them, and it's not supposed to be what fixes it. Basically, the way I took it, because it was very vague, basically what I just said is what the article said. I took it as basically if it bricks the game, we're fixing it. And if it doesn't, then we're leaving it for now until the big fix. So
just the Band-Aid till they can get it good.
Exactly. Yeah, not even any Neosporin, just the Band-Aid. So I think we beat that one to death. I think we even talked about that last episode. But okay, back to movies. Like I said, we probably should have just started with the video game one, but yeah, fuck it. One of us is exhausted, the other one's sick, so it's our podcast, damn it. We do what we want. This one I thought was interesting. I hadn't heard it until you shot this to me. Benicio del Toro reportedly offered the Star Wars Episode 8 villain role. That would be fucking fantastic.
Yeah, they haven't said who, obviously, because they're fucking lock and key with that Star Wars shit.
Right. But again, like we've said before, anyone that talks about it ends up dead in a ditch somewhere. And naked for some reason. No one's ever been able to explain that one.
JJ's a weird guy. It is kind of funny because he was actually, if you remember, he was offered the role of Khan and turned it down. And then it went to Cumberbatch. So maybe he had another... I
don't know how I would have felt after seeing the Cumberbatch performance of Khan. I don't know how I would have felt with Benicio del Toro.
It's weird. I feel the same way. Like, I can't see Del Toro in that role because
if I hadn't seen that movie, I would have been like, yeah, that's a great idea. But after seeing the movie, I don't know how I feel about that.
He's actually... Del Toro is closer to the original Khan.
Yeah.
Ricardo Montalban. Like, Del Toro is more similar to that kind of take on it, I think. But I really like the kind of rehash of it with Cumberbatch. I thought he did a good job. But yeah, now this one, Episode 8, is going to be their empire because they've already locked down the Looper director.
Oh, cool.
So it's starting to look like they're going to be following the original trilogy route because they have the dark tone probably for that one with that director choice, and then the third movie. And
not only that, I felt like the action in Looper was shot really well. Like, he had a good eye for how to shoot action.
Yeah, now he's going to have whatever budget money he wants.
Oh, yeah. He's got, like, bottomless resources with Disney.
Yeah, with Disney and Star Wars. And then I was saying with Episode 9, I don't remember if it was 100% confirmed or not, but it looked like the Jurassic World director was associated with it. So maybe have like the lighter tone for the third one. So yeah, for Benicio del Toro to be playing the villain in like the super dark Star Wars film, I'm all over that.
Does Benicio del Toro ever do anything that isn't really dark?
He's either really dark or he's really creepy, like in Guardians.
Yeah, I was gonna say like probably Guardians is the lightest thing I've ever seen him in, but when I think of del Toro, I think of fucking Sin City with like the front of the gun sticking out of his head and his throat all sliced, and he's like zombie talking to I can't think of his name right now.
Clive Owen.
Clive Owen, yes.
Yeah. And I like how you say Guardians is his lightest role when he's like an active slave owner.
Right? Right. So it's like, yeah. I don't know.
Maybe he'll actually accept this one, because for whatever reason he turned down the Star Trek role. I don't know why you would do that.
Yeah, I don't know. That's interesting to me. I wonder if it has anything to do with like what they did. Like there was an article that I had shot to you that was on IGN earlier in the week with Ian McKellen had actually been offered the role opposite Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible 2. And the only reason he really turned it down, he said, is because they only would give him the parts of the script his character was in. So he didn't have enough of the script to really tell anything about the character.
I think it was actually just because Mission Impossible 2 didn't have much of a script. Like he actually got the whole film, he just didn't know it.
So I wonder if they did something like that to Benicio del Toro and he just couldn't tell what was going on. I don't know.
Just thank God that Ian McKellen turned that down and then went for the other two roles of Gandalf and Magneto.
Yeah, because he said in that same interview, I think it was for People. I don't think it was Time. I think it was for People. Is what the IGN article was covering. And it said in that same article, in that same interview, that the very next day after he turned that down, he was contacted by Peter Jackson and Bryan Singer. So if he had done Mission Impossible 2, he would not have been Magneto and he would not have been Gandalf. And you and I had the exact same thought, which was there is no Lord of the Rings without Ian McKellen. Like I think of Lord of the Rings, the first face that pops into my head is Ian McKellen. So.
Those movies quite possibly would have gone from being amazing to totally sucking in that one actor change.
Yeah. God, we might have ended up with Sean Connery after all if that had happened as Gandalf.
Although, no, just saying that, I would kind of like to see that. More so just for a YouTube video, but I don't know if I want to see a trilogy of Connery Gandalf. Keep it secret. Keep it safe.
Yes. Oh, my God. But, yeah, dude, so Benicio del Toro possibly going to be a Star Wars villain. That's going to be fantastic. Another piece of news out of Disney we got, not necessarily Disney themselves, but a Marvel Alliance property, we'll call it. The Spider-Man suit is complete. No pictures. Thank you for that, Joe Quesada. I really would like to see a picture of the suit. And all I have is news that it's complete.
Well, I wanted to include this because if they've already done his suit, it makes me think more that Civil War, he's going to be full-blown Spider-Man in his cameo and not just Peter Parker. Because they could have gotten away with him just being Peter Parker, but if they've already got the suit done...
See, I was kind of expecting to see suit and suit only. Because like Mark Bernardin was talking about back when they were still almost done filming Civil War and... they still hadn't cast Spider-Man yet. Pointed out that you don't need the Spider-Man actor to have his cameo. It could be a stuntman in a suit. You know, like you don't need the actor that's playing Peter Parker to do it. So I was kind of expecting the Spider-Man suit a little bit sooner, but I would have thought we would have at least had a teaser picture like the Flash costume. With the white emblem where it's all in shadow except for the white emblem.
Oh, it's so awesome. So freaking awesome.
But yeah, I would have loved to have seen some kind of teaser, maybe even something that's just kind of like around the eye where it still doesn't even show you anything. You know, just something. But
I'm curious how secret they're going to be about the Spider-Man stuff. Like, obviously that movie is going to make a fucking $1 billion no matter what. So they could actually probably get away without spoiling the Spidey suit until you actually see the movie. Yeah. So we might not see it for a while. I'm curious to know when we will end up seeing it.
When's that movie due? The standalone?
It's the Civil War movie or the Spider-Man standalone?
Spider-Man.
2017, like July, I think.
Okay, so next year is Civil War, and then... after that would be Spider-Man. There's always the chance it could change before the standalone. Captain America's got a different costume every movie. I guess you could technically say Winter Soldier. But at the beginning of the movie, he has a different costume. Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if he's got one just for Civil War or if it's going to be the same one throughout.
I think it's going to be the same one because they're trying to say that he's already fully established, right? They're not dicking around with prototype suits and shit anymore.
Yeah. I know you said that you were kind of interested to see the web pits. I'm not interested in the web pits.
I just like it because, like, from the actor choice, like the first time I saw the actor, it made me think of kind of the '60s version.
Yeah. So
I could see them trying to pull them off just because that was his kind of iconic '60s look, and obviously it depends on how it works live action. But
let me ask you this: there was at the same time there was the Fox '90s cartoon that was just called Spider-Man, like everything else was, but I think it is now known as Spider-Man the Animated Series. At the same time, it was on, I think it was on Fox. On ABC, there was another Spider-Man cartoon that basically ran at the same time slot. And he had a fucking web cape. Do you remember that? He had like a little half cape that went like halfway down his back and it was attached to his shoulders. And it was like silky see-through and it had like the Spider-Man emblem in the middle of it. I was like, what the fuck is that?
Was that Spider-Man Unlimited?
No. He did have something kind of like that in Spider-Man Unlimited, but Spider-Man Unlimited, I want to say, was also on Fox. It was like the Batman Beyond to the Spider-Man cartoon.
The one you're referring to, I have no clue.
It was like... It wasn't Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, but it was something like that. Like, Spider-Man was not the only star.
And it was a cartoon?
Yeah.
It wasn't live action? Okay.
Yeah, no, it wasn't the live What was the live action series? Was that in the 60s or 70s?
I think it was the 70s.
Yeah. I still want to see that, just out of curiosity. I know it's going to be fucking awful.
Oh, yeah. It's probably even worse than you can imagine.
But I still want to see it. Just cause. But... Okay, now the golden moment that I was waiting this whole time for was the transition from Marvel to Marvel. So, speaking of Marvel, our Ant-Man review. That was not as spectacular as I wanted.
Ant-Man was awesome. Thanks, guys. Podcast is over.
Yeah, dude, I don't even know what to say. Like, I had no attachment to Ant-Man before that movie. I could have given two shits about that character, and after that movie, I went like another 3 or 4 movies just based on what I saw. But that movie was just incredible.
Yeah, you can do sequels, you can do prequels, you can do a whole ton of shit off of fucking Ant-Man, which, bravo, Marvel.
And I can't tell how much of it was the movie and how much of it was just the fact that I had zero attachment to that character, so it blew me away what they did in the movie. By the way, this is the spoiler-free version, so you don't have to turn it off yet. Sorry. I'm new with this whole being the host thing. Jeff's too sick to do it.
Yeah, I appreciate you being Jeff for the day. No one else wants to.
That makes me the interesting one. No, not really. I'm sad now.
You were talking about how, like, you don't know if the movie itself was being good or if it was just your lack of attachment. I think both. Because I think even if you had an attachment to Ant-Man, that movie is Ant-Man, but it's almost kind of like its own thing at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, we'll go into detail in the spoiler portion of it. But I think even if you had an attachment to it, you would really like it, because from what I've seen, even from nerds and comic geekdom, like the reaction seems to be really positive to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's it was one of their what was it we said earlier? It was their first time in, like, their lowest grossing movie in 7 years for opening weekend domestically or something like that. But I don't think that's a sign of the movie at all. I think, like you and I were talking before we started recording, is because it was Ant-Man. I think word of mouth is going to do for it what word of mouth did for Guardians of the Galaxy, really.
Yeah, it's gonna have legs for sure because, like we were talking earlier, both
Six
of us
of
want to
them,
go
in
see.
fact.
I see what you did there. Well, we were talking earlier. Both of us want to go back and watch it again as soon as possible.
Yes. I'm contemplating this weekend. That'd be 2 weekends in a row that were Antman filled. But yeah, no, the casting. Marvel is still nailing the casting, Jeff. I mean, would you have picked Michael Douglas for Hank Pym? Would that have been in your head at all if you were the casting agent?
He's a good choice, but I probably wouldn't have thought about it because in my brain there'd be no chance in hell Michael Douglas would want to be,
Yeah. I don't even know that my
Hank
mind
Pym.
would have gone there. As much as I like Michael Douglas and as good an actor he is, I don't think my brain would have even gone there. But of course, just like the John Bernthal thing, when they said that, I was like, I could totally fucking see that. And he did a good job. They all did a good job.
Yeah, he was awesome. Paul Rudd actually headlining his first. It might not even be non-comedy, because it's technically like a summer action movie if you want to get down to it.
Yeah.
Because it's Marvel, but that might be, his first headline movie, period.
So, yeah, maybe, because he's usually kind of a side person.
Yeah, that was... And, he knocked it out of the park. I thought he was a great choice. He actually... it was, he was still Paul Rudd the whole time, but I wasn't thinking, like every movie he's done in the, 40-year-old virgin films,
Yeah, it's not... It wasn't like Ben Affleck for me. Like, he was still Paul Rudd, but I didn't give a shit because it was Paul Rudd.
You never miss an episode to shit on Ben Affleck. You asshole. We're talking about Ant-Man, Ron.
You know that there's articles out there trying to predict who might be Robin in that Robin flashback, and almost 99% of the internet is like screaming Matt Damon.
Matt Damon.
But no, dude, Evangeline Lilly I thought did good. Corey Stoll was an amazing villain. Stoll.
I think it's Corey Stoll. Michael Pena.
Dude.
Fucking amazing.
Michael Pena was just incredible. Like I said, where of course we got Haley Atwell back as Agent Carter in it. We got John Slattery back as Howard Stark, which he looked pretty good with the white hair and white mustache. Actually,
yeah, they had him back. Was it Iron Man 2?
Yeah,
he was. Yeah,
yeah. So, yeah, they all did just fantastic jobs. Yellow Jacket looked pretty good. You've seen him in the trailers. He's even more terrifying looking than you think he is from what you've seen in the trailers.
No, they did a fucking awesome job with those costumes.
Yeah, they did.
Because like when you look at the we talked in the previous episode about Wonder Woman's costume, how like when you look at it on a comic page, it should not work in live action. And the Ant-Man one, when you look at it in the comics, excuse me, actually looks kind of dorky. But that fucking suit they made for that movie looks fantastic, and it totally works the entire time.
Yeah, one change that I thought that was really good to it, I don't know jack shit about Ant-Man. What I do know is from cartoons that are probably horribly off base from the comics. But his suit, he would like pull out of his belt a fucking detonator looking thing with a red button on top and hit that to shrink. And it was really cumbersome if you think about it. So what it always limited him to was being either always really small or normal size. And them moving that button to be within access of his thumb on his gloves. And what was it? Right hand shrink, left hand grow or something?
Yeah, it was. Each hand had one purpose.
Yeah, and it was just within easy access of his thumb, but yet out of the way, like he could still fight without hitting it and stuff. I don't know, it's just fucking ingenious. I thought, yeah, the costume designs were pretty fantastic.
Special effects just overall were really, really like. Even they spend a lot of time with him during the fight scenes. Kind of, we dubbed in the notes like shrink fighting. He's like going into combat and he'll open up combat being shrunk, popping out to full size to hit a dude, go back shrunk. Like it was really, really quick. It was like fast paced action, and it worked really well.
Yeah, you see, the perfect example of it is in the second trailer, actually. When he like decks that one guy, shrinks onto the other guy's gun, and then takes that guy out, jumps over into a guy's tie, and then grows and throws him over his shoulder with his tie. Like, it is just incredible. And you couldn't have done that in the cartoons that I'd seen, because he had to pull out this fucking little remote out of his belt and click a button on top. And yeah, no, they really streamlined it, and they really did some creative things throughout the movie. Any plot points we have discussed, by the way, are in the two trailers. I think there's only two trailers, I think, for the movie, right?
Yeah, maybe
and on some TV spots. So we haven't spoiled anything you shouldn't have already seen. That fight that everybody loves, that's in the end of that second trailer, or Thomas the Tank Engine, that's even better than you think it is. I'm just going to say that right now. That whole scene.
I actually enjoyed the fight scenes in Ant-Man more than I did Age of Ultron.
Yes.
And it was kind of mostly because it was something I hadn't seen before. Yeah. But all the action scenes in Age of Ultron just felt kind of, retread.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think that was one thing Ant-Man really has going for it, is it's literally something you haven't seen before. We've seen heroes that can fly. We've seen invincible heroes that are big and green. We've seen robotic suits. We've seen robotic drones fight guys in robotic suits. We've never seen a guy fucking shrink and ride an ant through the air. I mean...
And somehow make it badass. Like, they made it totally badass.
The guy is riding an ant like it's a horse. And it's totally fucking badass. I don't know.
Yeah, and the special effects were so good on the ants. Like, you see in the trailer when he's running with all of his ants, and they're getting blown away. It's like you kind of feel bad for the little ant bros, dying along the way.
When you said ant bros, I imagined like an ant with an afro for some reason. That may be racist, but that's not where I was going with that. But yeah, no, I was totally blown away. I thought the script was solid. Like, the story seemed really solid. It didn't feel like edited. You know what I mean? Like, overly edited. It didn't feel like there was anything missing from it.
Cough, Age of Ultron.
Right. Well, I mean, even some movies, like, you see the theatrical release, and you're just like, well, the way that was cut together didn't make a whole lot of sense. And you get to the DVD, and it looks nothing like that. Like, they've shown the original version on the DVD. Like, it didn't feel like that to me at all. It just... It
fantastic
flowed. Pacing.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. The downtime in the movie's not boring. The action is sure as hell not boring. They devoted a lot more time to Yellow Jacket than I thought they were going to. Also.
Which, good. They needed to start spending more time on the villains in their movies.
Yes. Yeah, see, that was the other thing, too. Marvel has been terrible at building villains that you don't necessarily know. Like, Ultron, we didn't get much character development out of Ultron. We got none out of the villain in Guardians of the Galaxy. Ronan, right? We do this every episode.
It's like a Guess Who game on who was the fucking villain in Guardians.
I think it was Ryan. Yeah, his name was Ryan.
It was Robbie. It was Robbie the Accursed.
So, then the one that I also like to point to that people forget about, fucking Christopher Eccleston was the villain of Thor 2.
Which, why would you even go out of your way to get anyone other than a stunt double in that role?
Seriously, like... They cut so much of him out to make more time for Loki that, like, he wasn't even in the movie almost.
Well, you know why he agreed to do the movie, though? Because he got paid a shit ton of money to, like, say 6 lines and then just show up.
And look mad. Yeah. So, but I mean, he did fantastic for what he was in there for. But yeah, Marvel spent a lot more time on their heroes than they do their villains. And I completely understood all of the motivations for Yellow Jacket. They didn't throw it in your face, but if you sit there and think about the things he says, the way he acts, the way, he talks to other characters, you totally get where the villain's coming from.
Which was nice, because usually we don't, like the Guardians one, we can't remember his name. And then with this one, we actually, know all of his motivations. They actually give him a backstory. The actor is really, really well chosen.
And he's in it throughout the movie. You know? He's not in like every scene, but he's throughout the movie, beginning to end.
Which was also really, really special about their script for this was Marvel has fucked up the villains even in the sequels, where they don't have to do the hero origin.
Yeah.
This movie does your origin. It's the first Ant-Man movie and has good villain development.
Yeah.
Which is interesting too, because they really that's been, you know, they're all good movies. They're all good to really good movies, but they do need to focus more on making the villains better.
And you know, Marvel, the Marvel MCU movies, none of them I would call dark. But I felt like, of the ones off the top of my head that I'm remembering right now, because there's so many fucking MCU movies now, it was probably the most lighthearted besides Guardians of the Galaxy, in my opinion. Guardians of the Galaxy was still kind of dark with the whole genocide thing. That, you know, that was kind of the plot of the movie. But this one I felt was a lot more lighthearted. Like, it focused more on the comedy and not necessarily even the funny lines. They do funny things with the characters and the abilities.
This one and Guardians are for sure, I think, the two funniest Marvel films you can see.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, I guess before we transition into the spoiler portion, what are your overall thoughts on the movie to wrap up the spoiler-free edition of the review?
If we haven't sold you already, fucking go out and see it immediately if you haven't, because it is, in my opinion, the movies of 2015 so far, there are Mad Max, Ant-Man, and everything else. I think they are the two that kind of stand above the rest of the pack. And I think it's up there with Guardians, like right up there with Guardians as maybe the funniest movie they've done. We both said earlier we both want to immediately go back and rewatch it, so
yeah.
I fucking love the movie. I was going into it, originally, the first trailer doesn't really sell you at all. The one that really got me was, I think the one that got you was the Thomas the Tank Engine one.
Yes.
If you like what you see in that trailer, you will like the movie, because that sets up the movie perfectly, totally.
I promise you, as good as that trailer is, the movie is like at least 10 times better than that. You know, if not 100 times, in my mind, it's about 100 times better than that trailer. But I don't want to oversell it, but it's just like 100 million times better.
It's just the greatest fucking thing ever.
I don't even know what sliced bread is anymore, you know? But yeah, no, I would agree with what you said. It's kind of what I was thinking where I was going to go is my two favorite movies of the year are definitely Mad Max and Ant-Man. Ant-Man, I really don't know how I could compare one over the other. One is like a lighthearted comedy, and the other one's apocalyptic wasteland and very dark. So I guess they're both kind of my favorite for the year. I don't know how I could pick one over the other. They're apples and oranges.
Yeah, like the ultimate apples and oranges you can think of.
Yeah, there's Mad Max Fury Road and Ant-Man and everything else, and at least until Star Wars right now, it's probably going to hit. It's got nothing else competing against it until Star Wars, and it won't even be in theaters by then. So it's probably going to hit number one pretty quick if it's not already, and it's going to be number one for a while, I think, once word of mouth spreads, because it was a damn good movie. You need to see it. Like I said, I don't care what you think of Ant-Man. In fact, if you don't even like the character Ant-Man, I encourage you to see it even more. Because, like I said, while I never had any attachment to the character, I didn't necessarily dislike him, but, you know, they first announced Ant-Man. I was like, really? Fucking Ant-Man? All the characters you have? Fucking Ant-Man? And, yeah, no. I cannot wait for the next Ant-Man movie. And I hope he's in Civil War, or at least a cameo.
It's funny. Like we talk shit about Ant-Man, but Guardians is even more obscure than Ant-Man is. Ant-Man was at least an Avenger. Guardians was like a failed comic that they did. So
yeah. It's pretty interesting too that they're bringing in Ant-Man at the end of Phase 2 because he's one of the founding members of the Avengers. He's the guy that fucking builds Ultron. So it's like, you know, not in the movie universe, but in the comics. So it's interesting to bring him in after Ultron. But
well, I don't think we missed much, To be honest, I mean, them changing it to the Tony Stark thing still didn't really make it that much more interesting. So
yeah.
I don't really think they missed a big opportunity there, really.
So, but yeah, performances are great. Story's great. Story's fun. The movie is funnier than hell. Graphics are fantastic. A lot of people are saying 3D adds to it pretty good. I'm not a huge 3D fan. I saw it in 3D because the venue I was going to, I had to. But I don't know that I would agree 3D really added to it that much. The movie, I hate 3D, and that's all I can think about when I'm watching a 3D movie is the fact that how much I hate 3D, and the movie was so damn good, I forgot I was watching 3D. So, you know.
Total testament. Go watch the fucking movie if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, seriously. If you see it in 3D, you will forget you're watching it in 3D. Apparently, I just totally sold all the 3D listeners.
That's the best 3D advertising I've ever heard.
So on that note, I'm going to go ahead and close the spoiler-free portion. So we're now going to get into spoiler territory, which I'm still working on a drop for that. I
give it a solid 4.5 expletives out of 5 expletives.
So, thanks for listening. If you're dropping out here, we hope to see you back on this episode for the spoiler-free portion. If you're going to go out and catch it for the first time and you don't want us to spoil it. If you don't give a damn about spoilers or you've already seen it, thank you for staying. First thing I want to talk about.
Spoilers.
Spoiler. First thing that you have in the notes, Jeff, is the first thing I wanted to talk about. How awesome was the fucking prologue to the movie?
Dude, how fucking awesome were the special effects on making Michael Douglas look like young Michael Douglas, first of all? Doesn't that blow your mind a little bit?
I think that was better than old Arnold looking like new Arnold.
It was eerie how good they did the effects on him.
Yeah, it was pretty good. And then, of course, Haley Atwell always looks good in the aged makeup, even. And then, Howard Stark. I just had his name. What the fuck is his name?
John Slattery.
Yes, yeah, John Slattery. Look at that. He actually looked pretty good in the white hair and the white mustache. The guy that I didn't know, character name. Here we go.
The guy who he breaks his fucking nose and it's awesome.
Yeah, Mitchell Carson, right, is the character name, or Martin Donovan plays Mitchell Carson. Yeah, yeah, dude. Which apparently is an Antman villain in the comics. He looks like fucking Two-Face. It looks like.
It's also one of the things I like, that since I don't know much about Ant-Man, it's kind of like Thor when I watch those movies. I don't know what the fuck's going to happen because I've never read any of their stories.
Yeah. But just watching Michael Douglas flat out punch that guy in the face, like, I had no idea that was coming at all. Like, he's just standing there, like, calm and cool demeanor, and then just boom, right in the face.
They do a really good job in that prologue, kind of setting up for a whole prequel movie that would be totally fucking awesome that I wish we could somehow get, which is the
yeah, dude, that flashback. I want to know the story behind that flashback later in the movie, not to jump too far ahead in the notes. But with him and Wasp on the nuke or whatever, trying to disarm it, I want a movie that ends with that scene.
Yeah, I want a whole 80s Hank Pym and Wasp movie, because all those things they hint at and show you little glimpses of are all really cool, and it sets up almost like its own little like mythology, which they accomplish quickly in the prologue, which is cool. And
I like this trend. Like, I understand Spider-Man is not, he's already going to be established. I understand that. We don't think that Doctor Strange is established, but they kind of alluded in Winter Soldier that he is, because they referenced him, that he was under watch also. And stuff. I really like that trend because Ant-Man was a character they had yet to introduce, right? Spider-Man, we've had two separate franchises from the same company. I understood them wanting to go him already established. Ant-Man was already established at the beginning of this movie. Not the Ant-Man we were going to get, but Ant-Man already existed. The technology already existed. Ant-Man had already been going on missions, you know. I thought that was a really interesting take. I didn't foresee them doing that. I thought we were going to get like, you know, Michael Douglas like in like the anthill trying to assemble the suit, and then he gets the suit assembled, and then it shows him on a couple of missions, and then that we got like the end of his Ant-Man career basically, and they alluded to the fact that he'd been Ant-Man for years. I don't know. That was interesting to me.
Yeah, they tie in the whole thing where he, you know, doesn't like S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah,
and he doesn't like Howard Stark. He basically tells him to go fuck himself.
Yeah,
and that prologue also quickly establishes his character, and Hank Pym is not to be fucked with in this movie.
Yeah,
he's an old dude, but he's a badass.
Yeah, how'd you like seeing the Triskelion under construction at the end of Phase 2? But like the second movie in Phase 2, we totally fucking destroyed the Triskelion.
Yeah. I want to go watch Winter Soldier again. You just mentioned Triskelion. I want to go fucking watch Winter Soldier again.
I just thought it was interesting. As soon as I saw the Triskelion under construction, like beginning of Phase 2, I watched that building get destroyed. End of Phase 2, I'm watching it being built. Like, I don't know. I thought that was an interesting thing to point out for some reason. Also, one thing I wanted to say about this movie, it's probably the closest to Batman Beyond we're going to get. I mean, if you've already seen the movie, then, you know, Hank Pym is already established, and then he has to retire. They never really go into why he can't wear the suit anymore, but he says he spent too much time in the suit.
I'm assuming they didn't go into detail, but it's probably similar to the Batman Beyond reasoning, is that his heart can't take it, right?
Probably.
Like, that was kind of the impression I got, because he almost...
Just too much strain?
Yeah, it's just too much strain on your body.
But yeah, so he goes out and finds some young blood and teaches them how to use the suit and train in the suit. And, I mean, the movie even starts out like Batman Beyond, dude. Scott Lang goes and steals the fucking suit, and then he puts it on, and here's Hank Pym in his head, you know, in the helmet, the way Terry did Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was just very interesting, the way it was set up. But, so yeah, it's probably the closest live action Batman Beyond we're gonna get, and it's from Marvel. That's pretty awesome.
I said, well, that sounds about right, because they already made the fucking best Batman TV show we're ever gonna get.
Yeah.
Daredevil. So yeah, it's typical Marvel fashion. And not even just how it's like Batman Beyond in that fashion, but like, dude, the plot in Ant-Man is so clever, and was so much more so than I kind of expected it to be, because we're talking about something that they hadn't really done in Marvel outside of Captain America, really, in that this movie kind of spans decades.
Yes.
Like, it runs from the 80s till current time, so it's, you know, it's spanning about 30 years.
Before you get too off of something you said, can I go back to my point for a second?
Yeah.
What you said reminded me of this also. How it's like Batman Beyond. He's lost control of his company to a young guy that was like a fan of his work, just like Bruce Wayne did. And that young guy that took over his company becomes the villain of the fucking movie, the way Blight became Terry McGinnis's like arch nemesis. Like, yeah, something, I don't remember exactly what you said at the beginning of that, but you're talking about like his company, and that just popped in my head too. Yeah,
Paul Dini's probably going to sue them.
Yeah. Anyways, sorry, back to what you were saying.
God damn, derailed me much. I just thought this movie was a lot more complex than I originally thought it would be, because they do a fucking great job of not telling you a damn thing in the trailers, really, about what you're getting into, which I always appreciate, because yeah, you really have no clue what you're getting into in this movie. You can get, I said earlier, with the Thomas the Tank Engine thing, that kind of sets the tone for the movie, but you don't know anything about like what you're getting into the plot-wise. It's just not shown to you.
What I did not expect at all is the fact that it's more or less a heist film.
It's totally a heist film.
That turns action at the end. But yeah, it was like Ocean's 11 and Honey, I Shrunk the Kids like met.
I freaking love heist film, so it was just like Marvel plus heist film equals Jeff Crack. I was all over this movie.
Like, I really thought the scene from the trailer when he's like, my days of breaking into places and stealing shit are over. What do you want me to do? And I want you to break into a place and steal some shit. I really thought that was just going to be like him getting the Ant-Man suit back or something. Like it was inside the company.
Yeah, not making the whole movie a heist film.
Yeah, not the whole fucking plot. Like, they're referring to Yellow Jacket, you know? So, yeah, that was pretty interesting. And the way that they use, and we touched this a little bit on the spoiler-free portion, but not in very much detail because we couldn't. But the way they use his ability to shrink was pretty interesting, both in fighting and in the heist stuff. But I think none is better than in his training. I love in his training when he's in like the anthill and all the ants like, oh, you're a cute little guy, and they swarm him, and then it shows him get real big and pop up out of the yard. He's like, that was really scary 2 seconds ago. Like, that was a lot scarier 2 seconds ago, or whatever it is he says. Yeah, that was
so good.
That was fantastic. But yeah, one thing we have written down that we definitely wanted to talk about is not only just how well it ties in with the other Marvel films, but that moment when he's going through the clouds and then it switches to Michael Douglas, and then, hey, you know that abandoned warehouse that you were talking about? It's not abandoned, you son of a bitch. And then Michael Douglas like looks at the plan. It's like Stark Industries. It's a really old blueprint. But when it goes back to him and he comes out of the clouds, you see the big ass Avengers symbol on the roof of the building. And like when I saw the blueprint for the building, I was like, that building looks familiar. I should know that building. I don't know what that building is because it was the blueprint. You know, it wasn't like a photo of the damn building. But when he comes out of the clouds and there's the Avengers logo, it's the damn training facility or whatever that facility is at the end of Age of Ultron. And you're just like, holy shit, you just sent him in to rob the fucking Avengers.
Yeah, because that is the new kind of Avengers Tower, because they made a point of they wanted their headquarters to be away from civilians.
Yeah.
So he's robbing Avengers HQ pretty much.
Yeah, so, you know, my head was like swarming at that moment. Like, who the fuck are we going to see? Because one thing they've made a point of is cameos that you're going to get in the Marvel movies. I didn't hear anyone say anything about any cameos for Ant-Man. Ever. So I was like, who the fuck are we going to see? We have to see someone. He's at Avengers HQ. And then I got that really disappointed feeling when he's like, it looks like nobody's home. I'm like, oh, fucking really? It's the Avengers and no one's home? Come on. And then Falcon comes flying up and he's looking for the intruder. That was a funny and awesome fight, dude. I loved that. That's one of my favorite fights in the movie. Was Ant-Man versus Falcon and his shrinking. And Falcon's goggles are not just flight goggles now. They're like augmented reality. He could like zoom in and see Ant-Man running through the grass and stuff. I thought that was really cool.
They did, as always, a really cool job of the shrinking and non-shrinking. Like, even against Falcon, you know, he's doing it constantly. Yeah, that whole fight may be the most fun fight they have the whole movie.
Dude, Falcon's costume looked badass too. Cause, like in Winter Soldier, it's more or less just like a jetpack. And he's wearing like a standard, like, tactical military outfit and a jetpack, more or less. Which, you know, makes sense. That was a military thing he had, right? So, and he was part of the Air Force or whatever. So, that made sense. But now that he's an Avenger, dude, his fucking costume was pretty awesome. A lot more red on it than I thought they would do. But
yeah, it looks a lot more comic-y than the Winter Soldier one did.
Yeah, but a lot better than his fucking comic appearance. Like, there's no feathers going down his arm. There's no beak-shaped mask.
He doesn't have a pet bird that he talks to.
Yeah. So, yeah, no, Anthony Mackie is rocking Falcon, man. Even
he better, because he's, I mean, at the moment, one of the main Avengers, you know.
Yeah.
If we're following what they're showing in the last one.
So, but yeah, dude, that fight when he's inside Falcon's jetpack, and Falcon's like kind of short circuiting and going all over the place, and like it shows him like losing control, and it goes inside his jetpack, and Paul Rudd's like, "I'm sorry," and like pulls something out. I was like, "You seem like a really nice guy," and he like breaks a circuit board. And, like, I don't know, it just the whole thing was fantastic.
And bless you, Marvel, for somehow not letting that leak in any way, shape, or form.
Oh God, I know, it's amazing that wasn't in the trailer somewhere. Like just an aerial
trailer,
shot of
but
him or
like
something.
Usually the internet leaks something like that, like Anthony Mackie seen on blah 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 blah. You know.
Yeah. So, yeah, no, that was pretty good. Bravo, Marvel, on that one. But we can't talk funny without talking Michael Pena for a second, dude.
Maybe the best character in the movie.
And at the same time, kind of weird for me, because like when I think of him, I think of like his roles in like Shooter. It was Shooter, right? Yeah, it was
I saw
Shooter.
it once, like 10 years ago. So I don't really remember it.
Yeah, no, it was Shooter, but usually kind of like a more serious role, usually like a very educated character, clean cut and everything. This was a weird role for him. Like it was like stereotypical like Mexican gangbanger, but you know, comically done
And totally lovable.
and yeah, and totally lovable. One would say adorable even. Yeah. Like every line he has is gold, dude, and his line delivery on everything. And that couldn't have been easy because he's talking fast, and the way he's talking and everything, I can't even imagine. But the voiceovers, dude, holy shit. Like the first one, they did it, probably 3 times in the movie, and the first one was the funniest because you weren't even expecting it, like, at all. Like, it even took me, like, half a second to even realize what the hell was happening.
Yeah, if you're listening to the spoiler section but haven't seen the movie, he is reenacting kind of the conversations between the, how would you say, kind of the back and forth and where he gets his intel.
Yeah, like, I would say that he is retelling what happened, like the way he sees it in his head, or like the way that he would say it, even though that's not what necessarily those characters would say. So it's like coming through the filter of his character. So what they did when they show you the visual, they're all talking like him, and his voice is voiced over it, and they're talking the way his character talks rather than like a normal person. Like there was a person like in an art gallery, you know, and it's like the way he talks. It was just hilarious. When they showed the art gallery, quickly off topic a little bit, were you expecting a Kingpin in joke somewhere? Somewhere.
Like, I was thinking like, oh dude, if they just show Kingpin in the background. Like,
I was expecting like Rabbit in a Snowstorm or something recognizable. But
yeah, I can only imagine the hell they went through filming those voiceover scenes. Like it probably took Michael Pena in a freaking sound booth for like 3 weeks just to get all of those syncs perfectly done.
I wonder if they did it like they do animated movies where like the voice actors come in first and do all their lines and then they animate to the lines. I wonder if Michael Pena had already recorded those and then the actors like listened to it a bunch and, you know, redid it themselves.
Whichever way, it must have been such a pain in the ass.
I can't imagine. But dude, it was gold the way they did it and the fact that it totally worked. And like I said, they do it like 3 times, but it doesn't get old. Like you can't wait to see it again when they do it. Like as soon as he starts talking, you're like, oh yes, they're gonna do it. But yeah. But dude, I don't even know what else to say about how amazing this movie is. I mean, they made a superhero that can shrink himself down to the size of an insect work on screen, Jeff. This is the world we live in. I don't even know where to go with that. Like, the possibilities are endless now. We had a talking raccoon and then a guy that can shrink himself to the size of an insect, and both stories work. I mean, and
it's 2 of their best movies they've done.
Yeah.
Which is just ridiculous.
Like, we always talk about how we live in a post-Avengers world. I think after this, we are now in a post-Ant-Man world. Like, the sky is the limit.
I think I would call it a post-Guardian / Ant-Man world, because those two were so off the wall, but worked in their own way, that they can do anything they want, and it doesn't matter, because you're going to show up opening weekend, because it's got that red Marvel logo at the front.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, after seeing what they could do with those two properties, I can't imagine other properties like, say, I don't know, Doctor Strange. That's one I'm really, really excited for. Just because I don't know much about that character, so I don't have a whole lot of attachment like Ant-Man. But at the same time, what I do know of that character was fucking awesome. And I've always kind of wanted to see that character done in live action. So...
And that'll be another thing in the kind of the stretch of movies they're on, of something kind of off the wall they haven't done before, because they haven't done, magic really.
Yeah. I think it'll be interesting because just everything that we hear coming out of that movie sounds like they're going to go darker with it, but at the same time it's Marvel and they don't really do dark. So I feel like it's going to be like some kind of weird blend of light-hearted dialogue with like a dark story and a dark villain. What
they'll probably do is what most things do when they get Cumberbatch, is that they'll
they turn him into a fucking dragon.
They work the humor in with him being a dick.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because they can have humor with it, but it doesn't have to be light-hearted Ant-Man humor.
Yeah, and like Doctor Strange, before he becomes Sorcerer Supreme, is a dick. So.
Well, even when he's Sorcerer Supreme, he's still a giant asshole sometimes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think they'll definitely make that work. I mean, shit, if they can make the Ant-Man movie fantastic, the Doctor Strange movie should be fantastic just as well.
Yeah, dude, it's... Speaking of fantastic, could you imagine if they had reacquired the rights to Fantastic Four, if they made Ant-Man work that well? What they could have done with a rubber band dude, a girl that turns invisible, a living rock, and a guy that bursts into flames.
You mean maybe the Thing would have to be wearing pants?
Yeah. Not have like, I don't know. I'm assuming there's no like rock cock in your face the whole time. And I mean, he doesn't even have an asshole. He doesn't even have an ass crack. Yeah. In 3D, have a rock cock just swinging in front of you. He uses it to break walls down so he could step in. Yeah, no, sky's the limit, dude. At this point, Marvel can literally do whatever they want. I have no more doubts. Cause I heard Ant-Man and was like, I don't know. But, there's a few things that IGN pointed out. They had an interesting article that I wanted to cover real quick. Some of these are obvious things, but it's the article. What's interesting about IGN's website, number one, the article has two titles. On my phone, it was like 11 Easter eggs you might have missed in Ant-Man or something, but it has a totally different title. I didn't even recognize what it was on PC. I can't even see it. It has the same title, but when I was going through the thing, it was like I don't know. I don't remember what it was. It was something Ant-Man, but it had nothing to do with Easter eggs or 11 of the coolest anything. Like right now, it's 11 of the coolest Easter eggs you might have missed. But the first one they have is the S.H.I.E.L.D. flashback. I don't really know that consider that an Easter egg. It was right in your fucking face. The Triskelion.
Who doesn't know what S.H.I.E.L.D. is at this point? Yeah,
basically. But where I found out about Mitchell Carson, the guy that gets decked in the face at the beginning, and then that's the last time he saw Hank Pym. Next time he sees him, he's like, "How you doing, Hank?" And he says, "How's your face?" That's like a double play on words right there, because apparently, Michael Douglas is referring to the fact that he punched him in the face, but I didn't know that he's an Ant-Man villain in the comics, and he looks like fucking Two-Face. Like half of his face is all messed up like that. And Hank Pym literally says, "How's the face?" So
yeah, it's pretty genius when they're able to work in Easter eggs like that totally work without any knowledge of it, because I had no clue.
Yeah,
but it still is just an awesome line either way.
Yeah, it works on two fronts. It's pretty awesome. The Milgram Hotel, or however you say it, apparently that's a call out to a classic Ant-Man artist by the name of Al Milgrom. Says he spent a 40-issue run drawing West Coast Avengers, in which Hank Pym frequently appeared in as Hank Pym, not necessarily Ant-Man. But yeah, the name of that hotel was a call out to an artist that worked on the comics. When the villain Darren Cross, referring to Hank Pym as the Ant-Man, and it shows that old archive footage, and it keeps zooming in to show you Ant-Man in those pictures and stuff. He says, I think it's Pym or Darren Cross, I can't remember which one says it, but one of them has the line, it was propaganda, tells to astonish.
It was Yellow Jacket that said it.
Oh, it was Yellow Jacket that said it?
Yeah. Because I actually caught that one because I knew that the Ant-Man's first appearance was Tells to Astonish.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It was Ant-Man's first appearance. And that was technically our first appearance of Ant-Man. Was that our first appearance of Ant-Man in the movie also?
I can't remember.
I can't remember either. They actually went out of their way to tell you that the line of the Avengers are probably too busy dropping cities out of the sky was from Ultron. Who didn't see Ultron? Let's see. And we got the Falcon. They point that out as one of them. The Wasp. We didn't touch on the Wasp costume at all, old and new. That was one of the Easter eggs that they have listed here, which again, some of these, it's literally in your fucking face. But yeah, dude, that Wasp costume in the mid-credits scene, that was fucking outstanding looking.
Wasp also is one of those that has no business working on screen, and they magically made work.
Yeah, they made the old costume in that flashback pretty cool looking. And, you see the wings and everything. And then, that new costume they said was unfinished. I cannot wait to see fucking Wasp whenever they're gonna unveil her, because that was just an incredible looking costume. They pointed out something as their 8th Easter egg that I didn't even fucking catch. The last time we saw Stan Lee, he was drunk, right? At the party in Ultron. Yeah. This time we saw him, he's the bartender. He went from being the drunk to being the bartender. I didn't even remember that the last time we saw him, he was drunk. But that was pretty cool, dude. You want to talk about Michael Pena's voiceovers? The Stan Lee one was fucking hilarious. What is he like? So good. What is he like? 90 years old and he's talking like fucking Michael Pena's character? Yeah. Yeah, that was just that's one of my favorite cameos. I still think Amazing Spider-Man is still my favorite one.
With the library scene?
With the library scene and was it Mozart he was listening to or Beethoven? I don't remember which
Something
one.
Like that.
And the huge fight behind him. But here, the number 9 Easter egg that they have on their list of 11. This is the one that blew my mind. We see Cassie throughout the film, Scott Lang's daughter. Evidently, she grows up to become a hero named Stature, and that hero joins the Young Avengers.
Yeah, that whole Easter egg is so fucking inside baseball that I would never have learned that if you didn't tell me.
Yeah, I had no idea. I'd never even heard of that character really, but they went out of their way to write in his daughter and to make sure her name was Cassie and everything. So you have the daughter of an Avenger, well, I guess at this point a future Avenger, and it is eventually going to grow up and join the Young Avengers. So I thought that was really cool that they even went that deep with it. And then the last one, well, not the last one. Number 10 out of 11 would not be the last one. The number 10 Easter egg, I heard it, but it didn't mean anything to me, I guess because I think of Marvel, I think of Spider-Man. But I saw that there was a Spider-Man Easter egg in the movie, and I sat there like, where in the hell was there a Spider-Man reference?
You see, and their Spider-Man reference was so in my face that I had no clue how you missed it.
Like I said, when you told me it was the wall crawler line near the end in the Michael Pena voiceover thing again, when you told me it was that, I was like, oh no, I heard that, but I didn't take it as an Easter egg. I guess because Spider-Man's been in the news so much lately. But according to like the director and everyone involved with the movie and Kevin Feige, that was going to be in there regardless of the Spider-Man news because that was already filmed and done before the Spider-Man news of him ever joining the MCU had happened. So evidently that line was going to be in there anyway, but now it really fucking works because we're getting Spider-Man in Civil War.
Yeah, I had assumed that they had re-edited that after the news broke, but that's cool that was originally in the movie anyway.
Yeah, they were going to put it in the... I guess that's a vague enough reference that if they didn't have the rights, they could still do it. I mean, what are you going to do? Are you going to say there's other characters that don't crawl on walls? Who says it's a direct reference to the wall crawler, right?
Yeah, they probably would have gotten into some trouble if they had said the wall crawler.
But or just like saying someone that crawls up walls. Yeah,
or the web spinner, like something like that would have probably gotten too close, but what they did was perfect.
Yeah. Then what they have as the 11th Easter egg, or what they call Easter eggs, is really to me only like 4 in here that were really Easter eggs. But the 11th Easter egg is the Civil War scene at the end of the credits. That was pretty interesting to me. I had no idea what the hell was going on in that scene. But to see Bucky again and to see them underscore Captain America's distrust of Iron Man already was interesting. I don't know if you caught it, but he said, "You want me to call Tony?" or something like that, and Captain America's response was basically just no, something mistrust, and then he knew someone else he could call instead. Like he didn't want Tony anywhere near Bucky.
Yeah, I wish I had seen it a second time so I could remember the lines better, but I do remember what you're talking about. They did make a point of he wants nothing to do with Tony at the moment.
Yeah. I'm assuming due to the fallout over Ultron, because they really did not like each other after Ultron came into the picture.
But it was so weird too because they shake hands and have like a moment at the very end of the film, which was a very odd way to end their Ultron, relationship on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you could also call that mutual respect, not necessarily trust.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
I think it's pretty clear in any of the movies that they really don't necessarily like each other, but they work well together. But this was the first time, like they set up a little bit of tension in Ultron with the wood chopping scene. That's literally the only purpose that scene serves. And it was fucking hilarious, but they did a good job of setting up the tension. That Captain America rips that log in half and stuff, and it's like the first time you see him like lose his temper. So you know that Iron Man really can just get on his nerves and like really dig into Captain America. And then to have him, he did not outright say it, but he more or less said that he has no trust in Tony Stark. So I thought that was interesting. I also think it's interesting to hear the Civil War people talk about that scene. Have you seen or read anything about that?
No, I usually stay away from stuff like that.
It's worded really strange. It's like they say something to the effect of, yeah, that was a scene for Civil War. If you read anything like IGN or whatever, they say it's a scene from Civil War, but if you have any of the quotes from the actual people involved with Civil War, they say a scene for Civil War. They make a point to say it's for Civil War. So does that mean it's a scene they decided not to use and gave to Ant-Man, or does that mean that it's not a part of Civil War at all, it's just a scene setting up for Civil War?
They might not know yet because they're still filming the movie. They don't know if the scene's going to make the movie at the end or not. Because, like I said, if you read any news site, they took a scene for Civil War as that is a scene from Civil War, but that's not the way anyone involved with Civil War says it. So, I don't know. Maybe you're right. They don't have a final cut yet, so maybe it was filmed for Civil War, and I'm just trying to read too much into it. But to me, it's just worded really, really strangely. The scene is still rough looking too. The color correction hasn't been fully done to it either, so you can tell they're still filming. Yeah, but it was kind of a cool scene. But so, where do you rank Ant-Man in Phase 2? Just Phase 2? Just Phase 2. My favorite is still Winter Soldier, but I liked Ant-Man more than Guardians, actually. Because with Guardians, we've always say, it's a hell of a lot of fun, but we always have caveats with it, like, well, it's a lot of fun, but you don't care that the villain sucks or there is no villain backstory. I felt like Ant-Man has a lot of the pros of Guardians as being fun and funny and a lighthearted kind of summer popcorn film, but actually had a lot of depth to their villain and a cooler plot setup to me. So I think it's the second best of the phase after Winter Soldier. See, I am torn. I will be the first person to say that Winter Soldier, Captain America has probably always been my least favorite of any of them, but in the movie universe, he's a lot cooler than anything I've ever seen involving him. And Winter Soldier doesn't feel like a superhero movie. It's like a high-octane action movie at the end. It's an action movie, and then it gets high-octane at the end. Basically... I want to ask you this. How is Captain America not really a superhero movie when, like, Guardians is more Firefly than it is Marvel? Well, I don't mean that it's not a superhero movie, but it doesn't feel like a superhero movie. It feels more like a Bruce Willis movie in the fact that you have like the impossible hero taking all kinds of fucking damage, and it's just like crazy action scenes. They punished Captain America pretty goddamn hard in Winter Soldier. Like, there was a point where I thought, oh my god, they're gonna kill Captain America. Like, I didn't honestly know if he was gonna survive this movie. It was pretty shocking. I think that's more of an argument against Guardians, because I love Guardians, but to me it feels more like a Firefly movie than it does a superhero movie. I guess superhero movie is probably the wrong term. I guess it doesn't feel like a comic book movie. Guardians definitely feels like a comic book movie to me. It does feel more Firefly-ish, but I just, for the life of me, I don't remember a talking raccoon in Firefly. You know what I mean? Like, Firefly was like a more realistic attempt to depict what future space travel and colonization might look like. Or maybe Firefly is a bad example, but like, I would say Guardians is more Star Wars than it is Iron Man, if that makes sense. Yeah, and I would agree with that, but it still feels, like I said, I think superhero is the wrong term. I think what I mean is comic book movie, because it still feels comic book movie to me. Winter Soldier is more like Hollywood action movie to me. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. If you're gonna do that to a hero, Captain America is definitely the one. I mean, he's the soldier of them all, number one. Number two, he's the guy that can't fly. He's the guy that
doesn't really shoot anything out of his body or anything, you know what I mean? He doesn't shrink. He's the guy to make an action movie with.
Yeah, like how it makes sense to make Ant-Man like the heist film. It makes sense for Captain America to be the espionage action movie.
See, and what blew me away about Winter Soldier is when I think of Captain America, and I've never read any of the Captain America comics, so I don't know what they're like or any of the books, because I know there's a lot of novels and stuff too. But everything I've ever seen of Captain America is super strong, punchy, throw a shield, catch a shield, punchy. And in Winter Soldier, like I said, there was a moment that was gonna fucking kill Captain America. Like, they really redefined the term super soldier for me in that movie with how much punishment he doles out and how much punishment he takes.
Yeah, and it's refreshing for these movies specifically because most of the time I feel like obviously the Hulk is never really in danger, but
yeah,
even Thor and Iron Man never really feel in peril to me, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, you know they're always going to come out, but that scene with, I guess spoilers for Winter Soldier if you for some reason have not seen it yet, with that scene with Bucky down below, like throwing knives and fucking shooting at Captain America and everything, he's trying to put the server blade in. I'm just like, oh my god, he's going to click the server blade in and then he's going to fucking kill over.
And it's fucking deep because it's his childhood best friend, so he can't hurt him back.
Yeah. So I was just like, dude, what the hell? But yeah, that really blew me away. So I'm not saying it's an action movie like in a bad way. I'm just saying it doesn't really feel like a comic book movie. It feels more like I said, kind of like a Bruce Willis movie where like Bruce Willis takes way too much damage for the movies he's in to still come out on top. Like he would almost have to be Captain America to take the damage he takes in his movies. But Ant-Man, I don't know. 'Cause see, I'm kind of torn. You had it more clear cut and dry. It sounded like with your reasoning, you decided pretty quickly Ant-Man was your number 2. But I still can't decide if my number 2 is going to be Guardians or Ant-Man.
So you do still think Winter Soldier is the best one they did in that phase?
I think my favorite one during phase 2 is the Winter Soldier. Yes.
So you heard my okay. So if you've kind of blocked that at number 1, my biggest thing, and which was we didn't really ever talk about it on the podcast, but the first time I watched Guardians, I actually wasn't as high on Guardians as everyone else was.
I was pretty blown away by it.
Guardians actually took me the second viewing to kind of wrap around what I did really like about it, because the first time I watched it, I kind of focused on what I didn't, and that I really freaking have problems with their villain setup. And I know we've talked numerous times, like, you know, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. But if we're just comparing these two films, like Ant-Man and Guardians, I think Ant-Man does such a better job of plot structure that it has most of the pros, but not nearly as many of the cons as Guardians. Which, not to say either one of them is a bad movie, because we're arguing, 2 and 3.
Right. No, and I definitely get all of that. And the thing with Guardians is it's more my speed. I love spaceships and stuff, and I love the idea of Guardians. Not necessarily the execution of Guardians, but I love the concept of Guardians, I think, a lot more than Ocean's 11 meets Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. And I said I'm not putting Ant-Man down at all. But
you can counter that with saying that with all the tie-ins, Ant-Man feels much more like a Marvel movie.
And see,
Guardians does.
That's what I was going to say for Ant-Man is, for a little bit I struggled with, is it number 1 or number 2? I couldn't tell, because while Winter Soldier was a damn good action movie, Ant-Man was definitely a comic book movie, and it had, like, Captain America Winter Soldier had some funny moments in it. But most of it was in like one-liners and zingers. I thought there was
Winter Soldier wasn't like Winter Soldier's all about the espionage action of it, and
yes,
and his relationship with Bucky. You know, it's a lot. It's almost apples and oranges to Ant-Man with.
Yes, and I think Ant-Man did an excellent job balancing and in a lot of cases blending high octane action and comedy. Because even like, dude, how intense is that fight with Yellow Jacket? But yeah, it's on. Like, they'll zoom out from Cassie's point of view, and there's these little two dots shooting lasers at each other, standing on Thomas the Tank Engine. And then it goes back, and it's fucking intense and dramatic music. And then it zooms back out to Cassie's view, and it's just a little pew, pew, pew. And there's a little, you know, like little puffs of smoke here and there.
Yeah, it's genius how fun but intense it is at the same time, like you said.
Yeah, so it's like, for a while I struggled with number 1 and number 2. I think overall, I like Winter Soldier as my number 1, just because the action movie and the fact that it made me respect Captain America, which is not an easy feat, because he's not one of my favorites, like, at all. Like I said, I'm probably exposed to the wrong Captain America materials, but to me, he's always just, like I said, punchy, Boy Scout line, punchy, throw shield.
It's all in what you're exposed to, because what I was exposed to as far as Captain America was the storylines that movie was based off of.
Yeah.
In the Winter Soldier comic that the movie is ripped off of directly is, you know, one of the best comics I've ever read. So when you get to see that brought to life, it's, you know, even cooler, because... Yeah.
So, Guardians versus Ant-Man, though, I'm having a hard time deciding. Just as soon as I think Ant-Man is probably my number 2, I go back to, well, you know, Guardians, at the same time, if you want to consider the entire MCU, while it and Ant-Man are kind of their own standalone thing, Guardians is trying to tie in with the overall Infinity War story arc a little bit. And that's really the only purpose that movie serves, is to introduce and explain the Infinity Stones.
And Thanos.
So, to me, it kind of fits in the overall picture a little bit better. I know Ant-Man becomes an Avenger, and that's going to fit in a whole hell of a lot better than Guardians does, but he's not an Avenger yet in this movie. You know what I mean?
I think without him even being an Avenger, it still fits in better, because
you have S.H.I.E.L.D. and everything?
Because this had tie-ins with, you know, they actually go to the Avengers' new headquarters. They have a 30-year-old backstory of S.H.I.E.L.D. going on. It ties into Hydra at the end of it, because the villain is a Hydra guy, they reveal.
Yeah, I think here's my problem. And you know how fucking like simple-minded I am about certain things. I think my problem is it's as fun as Guardians and as mind-blowing to me character-wise as Winter Soldier was. And it's got as good action as Winter Soldier, that I saw Guardians first. You know what I mean? Like, it was already my number 2, and it's been my number 2 this entire phase, and I think that's a lot of what my mental block is I saw it first. But
it was no. As soon as the movie hit the credits, this was better than Guardians to me. Like, it was just easy for me. I was the polar opposite.
I think the more we talk about it, I think the more it is my number 2 trying to creep into number 1. You know what I mean? Because the more we talk about it, because
so if it's getting close to Winter Soldier, doesn't that mean it's better than Guardians in your brain?
Yeah, that's what what I was saying is it's. You know, I think I'm cementing it more as number 2, creeping towards number 1.
We also need to watch it another time, because we've all seen Guardians like 4 times by now.
And I think what's going to happen, like I said, I'm trying to possibly go out this weekend and see it again. It's probably going to be number 1 or number 2 on my list. Is probably what's going to happen, because I was kind of blown away by what I was seeing the first time. Now that I've already seen that and I've been exposed to that, I'm going to be able to like delve deeper into it the second time. Because I couldn't believe what I was fucking seeing, dude. Like, I think of Ant-Man, I think of, okay, shrink, do this thing, this scene is over, grow back, and that is it. To see him shifting back and forth and the creative uses they had, he sneaks into the building inside the fucking water main on a raft of ants, dude. I mean, come on, where are you going to see that?
And to kind of tie up the conversation as far as how we rank them, if we're discussing Ant-Man versus Winter Soldier and Guardians, they've already accomplished everything they ever needed to do. Because Ant-Man has no business being one of the very best movies they've made, and it totally is. Because you were bringing up Phase 2. This is top 5 of all of the phases for me.
See, that my next question to you was going to be, where do you rank it in the whole scheme of things?
For me, it's still Avengers 1, and then the Winter Soldier. Those are my top 2. And then it gets hairy because I start throwing in Iron Man 1 and Ant-Man. Those are the kind of the competition for 3 or 4 for me. So like Iron Man 1 has going for it. It was what set up the whole shebang.
Right. It's your most fondest memory because it blew you away the most. Like, you were not expecting that movie when you sat down.
But then you start talking, Ant-Man has such a cool plot set up with the passing of the torch, and it's so Marvel, and it's other than Guardians, the funniest movie they've ever done. So it's just fun to watch for that matter. So it's for sure top 5. I would have to watch it more times before I could figure out in the whole scheme of things exactly where I rank it. But overall, it's top 5 for me.
I can't decide, and we've had this conversation before, and it seems like every time I watch the MCU in its entirety, my top 5 changes. It seems like I have a hard time deciding. Avengers is definitely number 1. Number 2, I can't tell. Phase 1 was like so airtight on everything. Except for Iron Man 2 for you. I can't decide if the first Iron Man is my number 2 or not. You know me, I'm the tech guy. I loved everything I saw in the first Iron Man. The idea of a superhero throwing together a whole bunch of technology, a guy throwing together a whole bunch of technology, becoming a superhero, that is right up my alley.
Yeah.
So
I just love, dude, you want to make me almost like tear up is in Winter Soldier, all the shit they do with him and Bucky at the end, where it's
God.
I would have followed you to the end of the line. That fucking gets me every time I watch that movie. I almost cry. Tugging at the geek heartstring so much.
I really don't know, because I don't want to say Ant-Man is better than Iron Man, but I can't.
Why don't you just give? Well, I kind of cheated and gave like in no order top 5 other than the first 2. Would you say this is top 5 overall for you?
Oh yeah,
it's top 5 overall. You don't know if it's better than Iron Man 1. So you've got Ant-Man, you've got Iron Man 1, and Avengers 1. What are your other 2 in your top 5 in no order? Is Winter Soldier up there? Because if it's number 1 in the second phase, it's got to be pretty close to top 5.
Yeah, no, Winter Soldier's in there.
So then you just got 1 more remaining.
Yeah, I know, and it's a fucking doozy.
They've had so many damn movies, I almost need a list of all the movies.
I know. I actually have one on my favorites on my phone on Wikipedia. They actually break down all of them in their phases. That's how I found out Ant-Man was going to be the end of Phase 2 and not like the beginning of Phase 3. Let me look. Just before I say something I regret.
Yeah, I've got it pulled up too.
The Marvel Cinematic Universe on Wikipedia is what I'm looking at right now. They have it broken down in short films, comic books, television series, and films. I feel so sorry for the Hulk.
So it sounded like we both had the same kind of top 4. We just don't know what that 5th one is.
I feel like most people out there have the same thing.
It almost appears like they have a top 4 and then kind of everything else.
Yeah. I I think just for how much we talk about it, how many times I've seen it, how fun it is, I think I'm going to have to go ahead and throw Guardians. And there's...
I have a feeling Civil War is going to end up replacing it for me, but it would probably be, if I had to pick one right now, it would probably be my fifth favorite one too. It would be at the bottom.
Yes. I think so. I'd agree with
that. The problem that Guardians has with the villain is also a problem that pretty much all of the remaining MCU films we're not talking about have as well.
And it's not just the villain. I mean, they have so many damn characters that they had to introduce also and tell their stories. They don't even really develop any of the heroes that much. They develop Star-Lord pretty good. You don't really care about Rocket's development because he's so lovable anyway. But like Gamora, they didn't even use, you know. She's supposed to be the most badass assassin in the universe, and she gets her ass handed to her time after time, and it's not until she's fighting Amelia Pond that she even gets badass at all, you know.
If I had to pick one that wasn't Guardians for that fifth spot, I think my favorite one out of the remaining movies is probably actually the first Thor. I really like the first Thor.
Okay, let me just make sure I actually have 5. So Avengers is number 1, and then the rest in no particular order. There's going to be Winter Soldier, Iron Man,
Antman,
and Guardians. So yeah, that's 5.
So yeah, my fifth one is either Guardians or Thor. I'll probably just pick Guardians off the top of my head right now, just because it's more fun. Thor, I think the first Thor might be a better movie if you just want to get right down to because Thor is another one that has no business working and they magically made it work, and it has a cool setup.
I like that you had to say magically.
They introduce Loki for the first time, which has been their only, super awesome villain they've had.
But, at the same time, they could have totally not introduced Loki at all and used him exactly the way they used him in Ultron, and I'd have been fine. Not Ultron, Avengers.
Yeah.
I was close. I do want to point out one thing. I'm curious about what the plot for the third Thor movie is. I totally forgot the title is Ragnarok. Ragnarok is their apocalypse, the Vikings' belief in their apocalypse. Like we had the Book of Revelations, there was the so-called Mayan apocalypse or whatever. Every culture has their own end of the world story, and for the Vikings, that was called Ragnarok.
Yeah, they hinted at a little bit of it in his visions in Ultron.
Yeah,
and that's all we've really got because I think we're still pretty far out from the Thor 3 movie, I think.
Yeah, we're looking at November 3rd, 2017 currently. I totally fucking forgot about Captain Marvel being done. That one's even further. November 2nd, 2018. That's a year later. What is... so we got Civil War next. Oh, dude, Doctor Strange is next year.
Yeah, it comes out like the week of my birthday, too.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, your birthday is what, the 5th? It comes out on the 4th.
Yeah. So I know what I'm doing for my birthday.
Happy birthday to you. Yeah, dude, I didn't even realize it was that close. And then Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Untitled Spider-Man, Thor Ragnarok, Infinity War 1. Oh, you sons of bitches. And then Black Panther, and then Captain Marvel, and then Infinity War 2.
And you just know they're killing one of them, and we're going to have to wait like a year and a half before we figure out the rest of it.
Yeah. When I heard they're splitting part 1 and part 2, I was thinking like they did with like Harry Potter or something where there's like 6 months in between. It's a fucking year in between.
Yep.
Oh, you sons of bitches. I shake my fist at you, Kevin Feige, sir.
Did you want to get into some thoughts for the Ant-Man sequel before we wrap up?
Yeah, obviously Wasp, I want to see. If they're not going to give me a dedicated flashback movie, I want more flashback sequences.
Yeah, Like, what I think would be cool
only
would
if
be
they can
like,
do them as well as they did in this movie.
What would be cool is if they had like a Man of Steel thing where the first 20 minutes was the flashback.
Yes, and whatever happened there is what builds on the story for the second one.
Yep.
I don't even know what villains Ant-Man has. I don't even know who I'd want to see.
Yeah, I have no basis on who I'd want either, because I had never even heard of Yellow Jacket until the trailers of the movie.
I think I remember him in some cartoons or something. Yellow Jacket was not unfamiliar to me. I remember his costume sucked. If you Google Yellow Jacket. And
now it's one of the coolest costumes they've made.
Oh, dude, that was badass. It looked different than the impression I got in the trailer. I thought there was 4 little arms on his back. I guess 2 of them were jetpacks, and 2 of them were... I thought he looked more Doc Ock-like. And then I got into the movie, and 2 of them were jetpacks, and 2 of them were that. But yeah, dude, he was still pretty terrifying. I mean, when they're in the helicopter and he shrunk down and kills the pilots while shrunk down, like, yeah, it was just... Yep.
What I'm also really, really curious about the sequel of Ant-Man is the first one was famously known for Edgar Wright leaving, and he ended up not directing, but he did make a pass-through of the script. Mm-hmm. So I'm really, really concerned that, you know, a good chunk of what our favorite moments of in the film were related to him being associated with it, with the just, you know, writing the script one time.
Right.
Because, like, we talked about before, I thought the voiceovers, if I had to bet money, I would say that was all Edgar Wright. Because that just seemed kind of so off the wall, just Edgar Wright, you know?
Yeah.
And
I could see that from the Simon Pegg movies. Like, that definitely is what that felt like.
Yeah, I'm hoping, maybe at least if they can get that director back.
Yeah. But at the same time... No, the people that are left behind that would be writing the sequel, hopefully it'd be the same writing crew of what's left would be coming back for the sequel. You know, they know what worked already, even if that was from Edgar Wright, and they would know how to either compensate or come up with something like that. So, if they change writers, I'll be a little skeptical about the story being as solid as the first one.
Yeah, I'm hoping, like you said, they'll be able to bring back the people who finished the Edgar Wright script. Yeah.
I guarantee you, you know how Paul Rudd's character felt? I guarantee you, since he's on the writing credits, I guarantee you he wrote his own parts, dude.
They definitely need to get him back as part of the writing team as well.
Yes. But yeah, I don't know what I would like to see. What are we at? Are we at 4 Infinity Stones?
Dude, you need a fucking flow chart to follow that stuff. I have no idea.
We've got the cube, the Loki Pokey stick. We've got the dark matter, and we've got Vision's forehead.
Did you count the one from Thor 2, the red?
Yeah, the dark matter.
Okay.
Thing, dark energy, dark matter, whatever it was, the ether. I think that's all we've got. I'd like to see Ant-Man discover an Infinity Stone. I guess that's not going to happen as we had the cube here already.
I think they're doing one for sure in Doctor Strange. I think it just depends on where we're going to find that 6th one.
Yeah, dude. The Doctor Strange, if they don't do one in Doctor Strange, I will be fucking shocked. Like, that is the perfect place. A fucking world of magic powered by an Infinity Stone just makes sense.
Yep.
And, of course, it'll be whatever artifact Dormammu wants. I really hope we don't get a Dormammu backstory. I want Dormammu already to be Dormammu and to already be trapped somewhere trying to break out.
We can hope.
Yeah. But, yeah, that's... I don't know. I really can't think of anything else other than that because everything they did was gold in this first film. I just really hope they don't screw it up in a sequel. Have they announced a sequel? Do we know for sure we're getting one?
I would be shocked if they were so willing to put him in Civil War. I think they do want to make a sequel of him eventually.
Yeah, makes sense. So, yeah, I just don't know what it would be. We've already done the heist film. So, is he having a cameo in Civil War? Did I already ask you that?
Yeah, he's confirmed for Civil War.
Sweet.
Yeah, that was what they were like. They had the Civil War thing at the very end of the credits, and then it says like Ant-Man will return. They were talking about Civil War.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I really don't know what else I'd say because I don't know shit about the character, so I really don't know what other thoughts I would have other than I just really hope they're able to pull off a second script. Like they
the movie they kind of hint at where like they're going after the Wasp in the other reality type thing would be cool.
Yeah. Where did you even fucking start with that though?
Yeah.
They could totally do it though because they mention when you shrink down to subatomic like that, the like time basically stops for you. Like she's not aging right now.
Yeah, and like that's one of the things Michael Douglas says at the very end of the film. Is like if you could do it, maybe we could save her or whatever.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe they'll bring Wasp back. I don't know. That could be interesting. Oh, one last point that I meant to bring up and I meant to put in the notes. Speaking of, I thought they were going to kill somebody. Did you think they were going to kill Hank? Did you think Michael Douglas was going to die?
Maybe for a split second, but never gave it like serious thought.
When he just like slowly lays his head back on the ground, I was like, he just fucking died. And then later it shows him and he's fine. I'm like, oh, okay. I don't know what that whole death scene was, but okay. Because he just kind of like nods to his daughter and then just kind of slowly like lays back and lets out a breath. And I was like, did he just fucking die? Yeah.
Yeah, I never gave it as much thought as you apparently. Because it would have been ballsy of them to kill him off in that one.
Because when he got shot, and I was like, oh no, he's shot. And then I was like, well, he's got to be safe though, right? And then they did, like I said, that thing where he just slowly lays back and like he gives her like a nod and he quits talking and he slowly lays back and lets out like this little gasp of air as he closes his eyes. And I was like, oh my god, he just fucking died. So, yeah. I don't know. It's a bright future, Jeff. If we live in a movie where Ant-Man, or live in a world where an Ant-Man movie fucking works,
it's amazing.
It's sky's the limit. It's going to be a bright future, I think.
Definitely.
So, well, with that being said, I hope you enjoyed Ant-Man as much as we did. I hope you enjoyed the discussion on Ant-Man. If you want to catch more of us, I've actually, I don't think I told you this, Jeff. I've got some equipment on the way that we're going to need for our Let's Plays. So,
is it shit getting like together and ready quicker than we originally thought?
It is. One, we're capable of doing PC games right now. We're just not capable of doing console. I was thinking maybe Freddy's 3 since we bought it and never got around to fucking playing it, and 4 is about to come out.
And we are getting Dark Souls for damn sure because I want to watch you break all of your controllers and scream and rage.
So yeah, I've got a scissor boom to hold the microphone while we play and everything on the way. So look for that because what popped that in my head is I was about to say we're on YouTube. Look us up on YouTube.
It's There Will Be Expletives, right? That's the name of the channel.
Yeah. Search for There Will Be Expletives. You should know our logo. You'll find us right near the top of the search results.
Subscribe.
So subscribe to us there. We are on iTunes. We are on Stitcher. And if you want to look us up on Facebook, it's facebook.com/TWBE podcast. And we're on Twitter @TWBE podcast. And thanks for listening. Check us out next time.